Julie here with Sirius Dallas Moon, Soul Day, Soul Hour, which is a great time to call on Apollo as the creative tyranny remover. And Rumen Kolev, that was the name that I was missing yesterday. Rumen Kolev. Um, so Rumen Kolev talks about Apollo as the remover of tyranny. Another attribution that is associated with the sun is exfoliation. That's a Kappa word for that, of dark energies. The sun is the luminary of the day, and when something is in the light of day, it is no longer in the dark. And so, sun being in Scorpio brings the light of day to the water of the well, to what is usually deeply in the dark. And and I want us to take a look at um, the new moon that we will have in Scorpio at the end of the month, because I opened today with several thoughts. One of them was the keen awareness that because I did not agree to participate in the creation of political assassination, um, I was not housed neither in Israel, okay, where I wouldn't go with the campaigns to assassinate a prime minister, for example. Okay, like if it's extortion cult, any premier would need to have the tapes of people as an extortion, so we would be unsatisfied with the functioning of any prime minister. So I don't see the point to assassinate the prime minister rather than to tend to the extortion cult and untangle that, so people can actually have representation. And it goes along with political culture. Now, what if the political culture is agreeing with and normalizing the Guna story that I talked about yesterday, where a woman is not safe and free to leave alone? Or a man? Then, the destruction of cities. um, so, in that regard, um, and let's talk about the new moon in Scorpio, because this is November 20. And I saw something that indicated a certain type of intrusion, but it's to do with something that is not new. Because Mercury rules Ketu, there's an extra level of fatedness, and because the ruler Mars is ruled by Jupiter, which is ruler of Rahu, there's an extra level of fatedness to this particular new beginning. Um, there can be a big explosion at certain people's housing, or if there is adjacency between housing and oil, housing and um, There are certain very sensitive spots, and there can be explosion in someone's housing or upbringing. And it has to do with religion. There is an agreement between this new moon and Jupiter that's already retrograde at that point. So right now I believe Jupiter is 24 degrees still. There can also be an explosion, a public explosion, and it can be a political one. Um, Particularly for all the midheavens, third decan of Taurus. Okay, Trump, Taliban, the Venus of Melania Trump, um, certain things in Netherlands. I don't remember a chart of the new candidate for prime minister. Jupiter ingressed to 25th degree right now. So Jupiter return. Jupi Procyon. Let me see. You see, the moon is so close to Saturn and I cannot do a talisman with that because of the proximity to Saturn. I will try to make talisman of Jupiter in Procyon. Okay, it's but I do remind that it is applying to oppose Pluto. Okay, and squares Chiron. So I will try to make talismans for that. Venus is with Spica in that T square. And then Jupiter will go retrograde. November 11, it goes retrograde. So pay close attention to what happens this week, because this is going to be the signal for the rest of the timing. Now, particularly, pay attention to any type of trafficking regarding the wealth consolidation around peace talks. Okay? This is the reason for the religious type of thing, intrusion, explosion, to do with somebody's, okay, I'm going to say somebody's IC, somebody's, both fourth house and IC. Okay? It's a very specific message for someone. That they should pay attention to that, because they have a point of interference, because it's ruled by the moon, they have a point of interference to change that trajectory. I don't know how. Think about the stories that came up, the Guna story, the Sedna story, okay, and living alone, okay, living alone. Oh, I said that a while ago. Even if person is not living alone right now, it's important for them to make sure that the people have a place to live, and that they can have an independent alone housing. I saw in Netherlands, okay, this is basically about people that have public housing, and they hire people, or they make of it brothel or stuff like that. So this all relates to the ability to live solitarily in a house safely, without being informant, without trafficking, okay? independent of ability to work, because this came with public housing, okay? And this pertains particularly to somebody's IC and fourth house, which is housing. They can have intrusion. I saw religion of peace. Or it can also be associated to someone's mean heaven. Let me pull up what a chart of nee. Okay. I want to see how does that relate, because there's certain things that I already see with this one. Oh, I don't have the houses. I don't know what it rules. Oh, wait a second. You know, I tend to not be too concerned about this chart. It can trigger the Mars here, but I don't know. Oh, because it's triggering the Mars, it's a new moon in Scorpio, opposing that Mars. Can have to do with femicide here with this chart. Can have to do with femicide. And remember that femicide is not just women. Femicide also in secret societies, the men are also feminized, okay? And this can have to do something with that. That that oak. Yes, that everybody knows what that has to do. No, we go back to the chart. Um, mm, 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 mm. But the things that show up around is Jupiter. Okay, peace talks. Okay, Nelson Mandela had son Procyon. He was going against the bloodline segregation of before the apartheid. And then he spent 28 years in jail and then became prime minister and then abolished bloodline segregation along with apartheid. This Jupiter here is something of that sort, but it's a 12 years cycle. Or it can be a 1 year cycle if we're very lucky. And the eurekas I have in this case, and being, this Saturn Neptune is engulfing my ascendant, so I'm a part of those Jupiters, okay, and it is that we can never have religious tolerance or peace when we have ritual abuse and trafficking and feeding the lower astrals with extortion cults. So it pertains particularly to peace, world peace, national peace / security, and the houses of both populist leaders and representative leaders or leaders in democratic regimes. Okay, because it's not monarchy here. It could be if the monarchs are of the people, but it's not necessarily immediately what I see. So it pertains to religious tolerance, integration, even when people talk about the religion of peace, okay, if they partake in for those things, then but also if the other, because Nelson Mandela did not abolish just apartheid, he abolished bloodline segregation from the tribal community. That's why it took 28 years, and that's why he managed to do that, because he addressed things in his own culture. Okay? And here, this one is a new moon that talks about the sexual sovereignty in someone's own upbringing and home regarding siblings and parents. Very specific message. But it's going to affect the world a lot, because it's a specific message for a key position that decides on world peace. Okay? There's an inconjunct to Chiron. Chiron. There are several moons that are next to this Chiron, including my D9 moon. So Chiron moon, trying to think, I would have Chiron moon around the 90s. No, around the late 80s. Late 80s, beginning 1990. Chiron moon, oh, okay, when Chiron was crossing my moon, there was the Gulf Falcon. Code Orange. No, let me tell you something. Okay. The Gulf War, 1991. The missiles were hitting, and we were in the center, so it was our area. And the safety room, okay, was my mother's room, and the closet, entire closet. She used to work for this place where they make the glasses and, okay, but all those things, the windows, and all of her closet was covered with glass. So we taped the entire thing, and that was our safety room. I don't know why we didn't go into my room. I did not have glass on the entire closet, and it was a big closet, like the entire wall. So what I'm seeing with this Chiron moon is not funny. It means that this, with the place where bunkers, don't rely on bunkers at this time. And then we had to put the dog in the room, and the dog didn't comply. I had to wake my mom, and she would wake up with this, ah! So, and I was in school back then. So that was when Chiron transited my moon. Yes, there would also be another thing. I'm not going to address that here. Herinnering. Dat zeg je. Anyway. Normally, I would say this is a story to tell the children, but so there is a challenge around the safety of somebody's house, and particularly where they are going to protect themselves is challenged The neighborhood for some is challenged, or the sibling relations. For NATO, this Chiron is next to Rahu, and it would be a fourth house for NATO. They can be intrusion by neighboring countries, explosion. Yes. Third house, vicinity, local. Fourth house, and it's the nations, the allied nations in that regard. People are like, well, what if I have a Virgo ascendant? Yes. That's what I'm talking. Also, the IC, okay? That's, IC is like the home and upbringing. So that is, and new moon is the beginning of something. And I said it's explosive and affects. Uh, it affects also career. Okay, so it can even be a topic about globalism and locality. Okay, um, but definitely I see certain intrusion. Again, we have to think about the fact that with surveillance, there's a lot of intrusion to civilian life. Saturn is, you know, the karma, the implication of that. Okay. Um, um, for me, I'm probably going to see that around my neighborhood and around my and something international. So probably NATO. Um, Now, there was going to be also hidden blessings about this big explosion, because it's going to begin a trajectory where that point of interference becomes more apparent. Okay, there are many things that are connecting. Think about people criticizing Islam and criticizing Judaism and criticizing Christianity for human trafficking, child trafficking, the dark occult practices, um, looking into real power versus the approximation of power. Okay, Seizure Girl just had a wonderful video about that. Um, so the opening for the points of interference is beginning to show, and it becomes more and more apparent that with Epstein we can't really make another Cuba Missile Crisis go away. Okay, let's just put it that way. Um, Chiron Moon, Chiron Moon. But this Chiron is on certain prominent moons. What was again coming up for? Okay, Mars. It's basically having Uranus on the Mars of new prime minister candidate for Netherlands. I don't see anything particularly with that Chiron being triggered, so it's more the other charts. For Trump and Melania Trump is around the midheaven, and Venus for Melania Trump And this Mercury. Somebody won't in somebody lives in somebody's house, or somebody lives in somebody's trajectory, lives in somebody's trajectory. There is a delay around peace. There's a big delay around peace. But there's also a big delay around war. It's related to somebody's karma, somebody's implication for actions, and could be to do with implication of rituals, to do with religion, to do with fertility. And this, Lilith, is an old issue that creates an intrusion in someone's upbringing and home that is explosive. I hope it's not Muslim Brotherhood signaled by this, because Mars is brotherhood, Jupiter is religion, and Moon, Procyon, religion of peace, Muslim Brotherhood. Okay. Esper assassination alert. Oh God. It's not assassination. I don't see it as successful assassination, just to begin with. It's gonna be Brotherhood explosive bombing. It's a bombing. Uh, there could be bombing of one's house, but it's like suicide bomber, like a kamikaze type of thingy. It's giving kamikaze or drones. There's a lot of protection here as well, but not on that Chiron. Is by the way next to my Mercury. This Chiron ruling Mars, a wound around action. Like I said, can also be a failed attempt to make suicide bombing. Yes, because Chiron, there's a wound around. There's a wound around that attempt to do intrusion, attempt to explode, because of religion. Um, uh, Mercury is purging something with this lunation. Mars actions can be unsuccessful with this lunation. But you know what I feel? It will be something that accentuate on how something is vulnerable to something in a way that previously was not considered. And the omens, what I woke up with today was Seizure Girl's video about power and how people pay for silence. But the structure of an extortion cult, which is my addition, is that this creates their assassination. Okay, silent voices become actions. Silent scene of testimonies, if there is such a thing going on, then they become action. And the public housing, but how people are also doing like corrupted business with the public housing, but this denotes to the fact that people had to participate in the creation of political extortion and assassination to get housing. And it's not only in the Netherlands, but the moons that I see are to do with the Netherlands. The affairs are international, but the moons are coming from the Netherlands. It's a kind of situation where it's kind of like everybody understands everybody, or there is more understanding, and yet to prevent an actual, you know, big explosion that is political and global, they would need to not have guna stories, okay? They would need to not traffic people in their houses or traffic people in housing. I talk about that a lot, but this one pinpoints the particular housing, the safety housing. And I know that to have safety housing, even as political leader, they also need to participate in extortion called being the extorters. And this is how they are extorted. And this is how political assassination happens. I don't see political assassination per se here, but the vulnerability of someone's housing because of extortion cults. And again, it's not about blame, it's about looking at the structure and see what are the point of interferences. And it has a lot to do with what people call religion of peace, because they know what you see, it kind of like the demon knows its stronghold on the people's vulnerability points. And when the people's vulnerability points is the devil, then the religion of peace is a stranglehold onto that, that when they talk about abolishing, let's say, child marriage, or or deporting because of how they relate to how they treat women, then they will expose everything that's happening within the housing that's supposed to be a safe dwelling for those that were supporting of. That's what connected these two. They both were supporting a certain segment of deportation, limiting migration, and the exposure is going to come from Muslim Brotherhood. It's kind of like people begin to expose each other, but it's very interesting because when in Netherlands somebody that calls for integration was called, but there are demonstrations against Islam, which means that the Islam is going to expose and de trop. But this one is pertaining to the safety houses. Okay? And also something with siblings could be with Uranus LGBTQ. Okay? You see, this is a point where people are going to pull all their cards because because there's an issue at hand of security, of housing, of the very basics of survival, and the economic hitmanship got to, okay, all that much. And this is where the Sedna stories, the Guna stories, the person that had to be trafficked to have a home explodes entire city. Now here, to be honest, cities is usually Uranus, but the ruler Mercury is with the vicinity, the neighborhood of, and it also has to do with siblings, gay relations, ritual abuse, blood related, okay, um, and we cannot ignore Neptune here, so the topic of medicine is going to come up. Um, and Mercury in Mars sign can be jabs, okay, it can be vaccines. So this can topic around castration, but also the relation between sexually transmitted diseases and ritual satanic abuse or trafficking, okay? Because this is something that with Lilith here, all the old issues are going to come up. And it can go all the way from, okay, it's just like be prepared that all the all the things, okay, all topics around Lilith, sexual sovereignty, but here in the face of dark occult, yes, old issues are going to come up, and there's a new beginning regarding those, and it has to do with intrusion around housing, how certain housings, safety houses, are vulnerable to. There can be an explosion around somebody's house, even inside somebody's house. Nee, 2, 3, 4, 5. For Trump, it can be around his children's, something around the children. 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th. A child that lives abroad could have explosion in their uh, um, something to do with explosion. I don't know. Um, you see, this is a moon that is mostly in the blue, and then we have this megalithic opposition with Uranus to Lilith, Moon, Sun, Mercury, ruled by Mars in the sign of big things in the degree of explosion, with Jupiter on a worldly affairs, okay? You think about how apartheid, for example, was a worldly affair. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a worldly affair. Each and every one of those could trigger the abolishing of apartheid triggered a decolonization it's a large, and here we talk about the way we do peace talks, and I kind of feel that the people that were usually trafficked around peace talks are gonna boom. Okay, so, but I see that the topic you see with Netherlands is the immigrants are also Palestinians now. Um, and there was real estate, oil, oil, oil. It's true. Yes. Somebody gonna get out of this. But nee. It's a problematic new moon, is what I'm saying. Everything looks in the blue, but we shan't be fooled. um, as for me, it signals my ninth house. Mars is next to my Uranus, so career. Um, my Uranus is co-present with Ketu. Jupiter, fifth house. But Chiron is right next to what my parent, housing, motherland, Nederland, Nederland, Nederland. Okay, and I woke up with this eureka that I basically did not receive housing because I did not cooperate with certain assassination plans. So, or kidnapping plans. um, but this is also why I'm like walking karma for certain things, because to enjoy the benefic, okay, one has to accommodate for free of ritual abuse housing. And I'm aware of the challenge. It's a big challenge. It doesn't make me feel much safer that it takes such a big challenge to house me. Um, but this Chiron is right next to the ruler of my fourth and seventh. Fourth is housing. Is ruling over my IC as well. Is and yet, if I'm not accommodated, it's a guna sadness story. Like houses, cities, nations, communities, and even genocides may ensue. Not by me. It's interesting. As as a person that was that did have accommodation and ran an extortion cult, said that there were one link in a megalithic chain. Okay, this also applies to the people that didn't participate in extortion cults and have housing challenges because of that. It's kind of like, okay, I begin to understand my place in the food chain, and I'm a very significant link in a megalithic chain that could unfold world hunger if people like me are not accommodated. So that's very interesting because I'm kind of helpless completely, and yet my signification is such that to mistreat me would cause world hunger. Um, that's interesting. um, because to solve my housing issues, one would need to address the trafficking, extortion, dark occult stuff. It's doesn't make me feel more safe. That's what I need to solve. And yet, if I'm harmed, there would be world hunger. And the bunkers will not be safe. Housing, underground, housing. What is Scorpio? It's the well. Okay, it is a housing that is the depth of the well. That's bunkers. is not going to be safe, and the vulnerability is going to be shown because of the rituals, the dark rituals that were making that place unsafe. And with Neptune, there's some sort of, ooh, there can be some sort of virus pertaining the water in the safety houses. I don't know. The water that the bunkers thought to rely on, because it's infrastructure in the deep ocean, causing diseases. Diseases coming from the ocean. Because it can be something that was frozen, ice. Okay, if they relied on ice, that even in the Arctic, you think about the deep freeze of something, then it causes certain bacteria. Now, the people who genetically bloodline are compromised because of a certain religions or like, okay, then they have more susceptibility in the immune system for that. Certain pollution in the water, or the water, Saturn is ice and Neptune is dissolved, so it can be defreezing. Something is defreezing, and that can cause disease. Defreezing ice into the ocean can cause disease that's coming from the ocean. And this disease connected still with lungs, fertility, but is going to cause inflammation and problems to the endocrine system and the nervous system through inflammation. Because it stems from the Sedna stories, it can be decomposing bodies of trafficked children in the ocean that have these, they were frozen, and then something that was frozen and then defreezes, but it's decomposing and decay in the depth of the ocean. And this is causing bacteria, polluting the blood and the lymphatic system. Vulcan, it's the Spanish flu. It's the defreezing of the Spanish flu. Is going to affect the bunkers and the safety houses. It's also, I saw it. You know what I saw? I saw like people that are, unfortunately, I guess, but I saw it at the people that were traffickers, and it was like mucus on mucus on mucus on mucus on mucus, like an ocean of mucus. And I saw the return of the Spanish flu because the ice, there is a defreeze of the glaciers into the ocean, and it pollutes the water, the drinking water. By the way, it could also affect my very residence. And I got to buy shungite by actually um, uh, uh, the consciousness of a person that tried to traffic me in academia. It said shungite, shungite, and shungite is purifying the water. And the remnants of the, and this is why it's going to be difficult, because it's historical virus. It's historical virus coming back because of the freezing of the glaciers. It's kind of like the effect of like the entire oil drainage on the ecosystem that causing that, and the effect of the decomposed bodies from the plague, but also from the trafficked people in the Arctic. This is as old as Inuit. This is why I saw the Guna story coming up. Okay, and the Sedna, Uranus Sedna also brings similar stories, similar myths, like the Guna story. And it's coming to hunt the aristocracy that basically is most susceptible to the Spanish flu. It's the same thing. It's the Spanish flu. It's not a different disease even. It's exact same disease. It's going to be a beginning of an onset of an outbreak of the Spanish flu, but we might delay in seeing that until Saturn Neptune is in Aries. And Chiron is with Aries in Aries. And I received to do the thieves vinegar, okay? And this one, the fake plague and the real plague. It's bringing the real plague. Okay, this one is the plague, the plague. It's the plague where people actually died from the plague, okay? And it's affecting all of the people that made, unfortunately, the fake plague, okay? So, what to do? There's no way around that. Only abolition, ritual abuse, human trafficking, um, because this is the things that putting a halt to that on a ritual level begins to stop feeding the lower astral, because that's, ceremonies or rituals upon rituals to feed the lower astral. Who will it take? It will take what the aristocracy, the people that did those rituals. um, I don't see particularly monarchy here, but these rulers of Netherlands 1800 chart. Where is Cassandra? Asteroids. Yes, I need to charge my phone. Now, here's the thing. When I say an onset of the plague, it doesn't mean that immediately people are going to die. It just means that it's there in the water of the ocean. The people that are going to correct the underwater webs, okay, that we had in the cord cutting with the 1100, okay, but the but the people that are going to fix that might become sick. Think about it. When Israel invaded WEF invaded Gaza, then the soldiers under the uniforms of IDF, they died from a fungi in the soil. Toxic fungi. Now there's a spread of a lot of toxic fungi. Some of them are like intentional spreads, but some of them is kind of like, well, it's the mold of the decomposing bodies that rituals were done on them, because and it's also the nuclear residues combined, because it's that ritual that manifested in that matter. Um, yeah. So again, remember, Sedna had the real intuition. Where is Cassandra? Let's see. Circe might also come. Where is Cassandra? Here it is. Okay, remember what was the sadness story? The father was trying to get demonic powers to control nature. Who actually controlled nature? Sedna. um, she died, yes, it is true, but she was basically ritually sacrificed. But there was hunger. Cassandra, 11 degrees. Aries, silver. Cassandra is, yeah, but I don't know if this trine to Mars is playing a role here. Mars is ruling Cassandra asteroid at this time. It can be kind of the fake plague and the real plague. So, and it's going to contaminate the water, and it's going to be a difficult to diagnose issue that is a historical virus. Okay, Neptune, Saturn is historic. You see, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter in Capricorn was a historical power move. Sextile in Neptune, but Saturn bringing the rulership of Pluto to Neptune is kind of like the karma of that. um, Now, for the people that died from COVID, if you have loved ones that died from COVID, either they said it COVID and it was other thing, or they were targeted for assassination and then they genuinely died from something injected to them that could have been that virus. For example, assassinated astrologer Nikola Stoyanovich died a sudden death supposedly because of COVID, and he had the 18th degree of something poisonous, difficult to diagnose. Um, and yeah, again, I don't know all the trajectories. I knew him as astrologer that was teacher of my astrology teacher, so I did not know him what other things he did, so I don't know. He did charts for the employees of Coca-Cola, that's what I know. And Coca-Cola kept coming up, I don't know why. I know that they are like boycotting Coca-Cola. Yes, but they're boycotting many things. Well, I don't know that there were drugs in that. Whatever. It can be drugs in like drinking companies or soda companies, like soft drinks or cold drinks companies. Yes, there can be something like that, corruption in that sense. Okay, but I don't know. Um, I think it's the actual Spanish flu is respreading because I saw something with the lymph and inflammation and many traffickers becoming like a pile of goo of that inflammation. This is what I saw. It's like an ocean of inflammation. So it's the Spanish flu spreading in the ocean. Um, and there are all these manufactured storms and tsunamis and floods. So it's arriving at cities. Not yet with this lunation, but this is the real plague. It's not the fake one. And the bunkers and safety houses are affected. By the way, also my motherland's father, mother, and apparently leaders. It is, yes, um, because their moon is there. um, so, oh yes, it took me time to understand that. Oh God. But the minute 2023, I said, people are leaders, leaders are people. And I said, well, they're going to get it, the leaders are going to get, and my housing is affected by this. But also